Folding phones have existed for years. The original Fold came out 7 years ago and looked like an actual brick, whereas the newest one looks like an actual phone. However, these phones have a lot of problems. Like, in what universe am I supposed to afford that? Or like, how is this bigger screen solving any of my problems? But for the first time ever, foldables are actually starting to make sense, which is why Apple is cooking something special right now. Hey, this is Tech Snowball on the Backmarket channel, and recently I've been staring at my iPhone thinking, this doesn't hit anymore. This is boring. In fact, looking at the new iPhone got me really excited because that means that the previous year iPhones are gonna be cheaper now. It seems like all of the upgrades recently are just camera related, so if you don't care about the camera, there's like no point of upgrading. Logically, this is gonna make you crave something more exciting and interesting, and Apple did try something more exciting. They did the iPhone 17 Air, but luckily you can just go into the Apple store, touch it for a little bit, and the excitement goes away in about 10 seconds. And to fix that problem, I got myself the new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Well, it's not new, but this phone is sick and it's exciting, which makes me wonder, how is this the 7th generation of foldables, whereas Apple is barely on the 7th generation of iPad minis? Are they asleep? We all know that Apple takes their sweet time polishing their features, which means that half the time they're just behind the competition. Like, what took them so long to use 120Hz, and why did it take them like 59 years to use USB-C? I understand not wanting to rush and release some slop. Like, look at the first Galaxy Fold. Yes, it was cool back then, but looking at it now, it kind of aged like dog food. Understandably, Apple didn't want to jump on this trend because imagine if they released this back then. Who would even buy that? I mean, look at the front of it. That looks like a TV remote that just accidentally happened to have a screen on it. But then 7 years later, this is basically the same size, thickness, and weight as the S25 Ultra, so this is just a regular phone that happens to unfold, right? So surely by now, Apple should have just made a foldable. Everything is perfect, right? Well, this thing doesn't really make sense, and the main thing about it is the screen. But wait, how could this be? Now look, if you pull up some YouTube on the Galaxy Z Fold 7, you might think, wow, this is a massive screen. This is the best viewing experience that you can have, right? Well, have a look at this. If I put the S25 Ultra on top of it, you actually don't get any more space. It's basically the same thing unless you rotate the phone and you get like a tiny bit more screen. All you get is just a bunch more bezels. And what's funny is that if I then close the display and watch YouTube on this screen, it is actually smaller than I would have otherwise had on a normal phone. So why the hell did I just spend $2,000? And it's not just YouTube, because look, if I open Discord, all that happened is that the text got squished now. Why is it smaller? And then if I go to Reddit, the same thing is happening here. I get like the same amount of information, but there's just more padding on the side. So there isn't anything extra. And then if we go to Instagram, this is just awful. Like, look how wide every video is. And you actually end up getting less space because like this looks all messed up now. So are the reels. Like, what's the point of having all this space? I mean, if you look at the monitor, you see how it's wide and then the phone is tall and then this is a square. The fact that it's a square is the reason why content doesn't make sense on it. But then to be fair, Clash of Clans actually looks pretty nice on this, but come on, there's literally an iPad for that. When people think of a foldable, they think, wow, this is so cool, so I can have a phone and an iPad in the same pocket, right? Well, that's not how it works. Because an iPad would be wide, like a monitor. I don't have an iPad. This is just a piece of paper. But the point is, the way to fix that is to make the foldables wide, not a square. Now, we kind of already had this idea before because look at the Google Pixel Fold from 3 years ago. They were onto something because this was actually kind of like an iPad. And I'm not gonna lie, the front was ugly as hell. And there was also the Oppo Find N2 from like 3 years ago, which looked kind of cute at 7.1 inches. And it feels kind of wrong calling 7.1 inches small and cute, but I'm personally more of a 8-inch guy. That's because the Fold 7 is 8 inches. And the thing is, Huawei observed and they actually learned that a wide foldable is what we actually need, which is why they revealed the Huawei Pura X Max interesting name, which is the first actual wide foldable that looks like an iPad and is actually probably going to be useful. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is because this is exactly what Apple is going to do. Huawei is basically the example of what Apple is doing right now. I have to say that this is a rumor and there's no point of speculating every single little detail, but everything points at the new iPhone Foldable being wide like a book. And now we even have some examples of dummy models which show that the outer screen is going to be a 5.5-inch square. Wait, doesn't that mean we're going to have the opposite problem now? So the screen that opens is going to be wide, but then the outer screen is going to look nothing like a phone. What? Anyway, these are probably going to drop with the iPhone 18 Pros at the end of the year, and you're not going to be able to afford them. Because if the 17 Pro Max is like $1,200 and then the Z Fold 7 is like $1,800, then you can already imagine that the iPhone Fold is going to be like $2,000. But the square screen is not the only thing that they're going to be fixing, because look, if I can barely open this, but if I open the Z Fold 7, the crease on this thing is actually kind of crazy. Like, if you shine some light, it is very visible. It kind of looks like someone just ran a bike across the middle of the screen. So Apple is gonna do something about it to make it less visible or even invisible. And this is probably why Apple is just now starting to get involved in this whole foldable thing, because having an ugly crease was like the last thing that was stopping foldables from actually being perfect. And if you think about it, for the price, you could actually get an iPhone 17 Pro and a base iPad, and it would still probably be cheaper than the iPhone Fold. And I know it's not the same thing, but for most people that would actually make more sense. So if you think about it, the early adopters or the unpaid beta testers are gonna spend insane prices on these foldables, but then later down the line, a couple years later, these things are gonna get cheaper and cheaper every year, and getting them used, it's gonna be like half the price. So at first glance, you might think, this only has 2 cameras. My iPhone 17 Pro has 3 cameras. Or how there's apparently no Face ID, just Touch ID, and the battery is probably gonna be worse because your phone literally has to fold in half, and so does the battery. I mean, it's not gonna take Apple 7 years to make a good foldable. They already had Samsung do all the crazy experimenting and failing and everything, so they're probably just gonna swoop in and make a pretty decent foldable on the first try, hopefully. That'd be good. So yeah, foldables didn't just suddenly get a lot better overnight. They just started to make more sense. They became incredibly thin, the crease is gonna be fixed, the shape is finally gonna make sense, and now foldables feel less like experiments and actually good phones that people would buy, because they're way more exciting than a normal phone. Which is why I think this is the perfect time for Apple to step in and make the first foldable, because everything just makes sense now. They might be late, but at least they waited to make something actually good. Hopefully. But for now, I'm not gonna switch to this foldable because I want to see what Apple does with the iPhone Fold. So if you want to buy that Z Fold or even this iPhone, I'm gonna leave some links in the description. And if you like this video, subscribe, like, do whatever, and I'll see you next time.